It's your boy Elephante. I'm out here in Atlanta, and I'm here from Los Angeles, California, and you are watching Husky Chats.
So typically we have real dogs on the show. Why is it that there are no real dogs and there are fake dogs?
I know I'm the worst. I'm sadly allergic to dogs. It's the greatest tragedy in my life. I grew up with a golden retriever, and I went away from home, and when I went back to visit, all of a sudden I was allergic. So now, basically every time I'm around dogs, I borderline die. So, and I basically didn't want to bring my inhaler to the club, and because that's not a great look. But
what's the most American shit you've ever seen as a touring musician?
American shit. I mean, like playing frat shows in Georgia, you get some pretty American shit. You know, like when I was playing a frat show and the CDJs or something broke and there was silence for a second, and then like literally silence. A split second later, it's like USA, USA. It's like, okay, well that'll fill the silence. You know, getting beers thrown at me feels pretty American. Yeah.
Cool. So as far as, of course, I know you graduated with a degree in economics from Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that necessarily made you make that switch? I know that you had a corporate job that you really despised for a long time, but kind of what was the breaking point, the straw that broke the camel's back that made you become a career musician?
It's interesting because I almost look at it the other way, where it's like, why did I have the job in the first place? I had the job because that was what you were supposed to do, and I was very fortunate to go to a good school and get a good job, but it was just there's this constant sense of like, I don't want to do this. This isn't what you were meant to do. This isn't right. Something is wrong, and that voice is just in my head the whole time, and so it was just like a battle between that voice and sort of like, you know, the good situation that I had. And just after a year or so, I think I really gave it my best to be like, okay, this is your life now. And the voice just wouldn't go away. And I think a year in, it was just like, I knew one day I woke up and I was like, this isn't gonna work. You're gonna wake up and you're gonna be 40 and you're gonna hate yourself. And you're never gonna forgive yourself if you don't give it a shot. And I know it's scary, and you know, I've been putting it off as long as I could have, but then I was like, I can't do it anymore. There's no more. I just won't be able to look myself in the morning if I don't give it a shot at least. So.
Cool. And when you kind of made that switch and you made that transition, what would you say was the most difficult aspect of that transition? Would it be, you know, kind of going from not having, say, the financial means to do it? Would it be kind of, you know, the uncertainty of what it is that you're going to do in the future? What would you say was the hardest and most difficult part for you when you made that transition?
Not making any money was definitely scary. That was, there's nothing that will motivate you like not having any money. But I think the hardest part really was that most of my life, school, whatever, there's like a very set path on what you're supposed to do. It's like, okay, I'm going to school, I'm going to take this test, and then I'm like, if I do well on this test, I'll get this grade, and I get this grade, then I can do this thing. And there's like very specific things that you can do. But when I quit and I was doing music full time, you suddenly, in music, there's no set path to success. Everyone does it different, and if you're trying to copy what someone else does, it's not gonna work. And that was a big hurdle because I love making music, but there's so much to it outside of, you know, sitting in the studio and just like making the songs. And so it was like, the scary part was like, well, what do I do? And part of me was like, oh, just make levels and you'll be good. But that's not really how it works. And so the scariest part was like, you know, you wake up, you do your best, and you're like, this is the best thing that I could possibly do, and I will never be able to make anything better than what I made today. And you put it out, and no one cares. So you're like, well, what do I do next? I put everything I had into this. I don't know how I can possibly get better than this. And then the next day you're like, well, I guess I got to try again. And so that was sort of the tough part, not knowing what you needed to get done to like make it.
Cool. Was there a point in time where you came across an obstacle or something that really made you question your decision? Was there something that made you, I guess, kind of question yourself and the decision that you made? If so, what was it? And what was it that got you to overcome?
Yeah, like every week. It was the first few years of my career it was really hard emotionally because you would do the best you could, and then again, nothing. Your life wouldn't really change. It would be like, I remember the first time I got 1,000 plays on SoundCloud. I was so jacked up. I was like this is incredible. And then you wake up the next day and still you're the same person and nothing has changed. And so it's almost like the successes that you have are harder than because you hit the thing that you think you want to hit, and then you get it, and then everything's the same. So it's like, well, what do I have to do? It's like, okay, well, I got 1,000. I guess now I got to get 1 million. Then you get 1 million, same thing. No one cares. You get another song with 1 million, no one cares. And then it's like you go through all these moments where you're like, well, like, what do I even do? And it's I think the thing that got me through that is that I didn't know what else I was gonna do. I had already tried having a normal life, and there was no backup plan. It was just I very intentionally gave myself no safety net. It was like, well, you're gonna make this work, and there was no like, well, you'll give it a try for a while, and if it doesn't work, then you can go get another job. I was like, no, I'm just gonna figure out a way. And there's I think that the people that make it are the ones, they're not necessarily the most talented ones, they're the ones that are willing to go through that moment of like failing over and over and over again and still being like, I don't care, and I'm gonna figure it out.
What would you say right now is your current goal moving on to the next level? It's
hard, right? Because again, you set these goals and you get it and you feel nothing, and then you're always on to the next thing. So it's, I'd love to me, it's less about setting like a specific, I'd love to play headline Coachella. I'd love to headline EDC. I would love to, be the face of Win in Vegas, right? All those things are great, but to me, that's less. I'm very much a what are you gonna do next kind of person. If I think about everything that had, even up my career up to this point, if you told me everything that I'd have to do to be where I am now at the beginning, I'd be like, there's no fucking way. There's no chance that's gonna happen. And so when I start to think too long term about it, it gets really scary. I get a ton of anxiety. And so to me, the most important thing is, and the thing I'm really excited about right now, is just being authentic to who I am, making the music I want to make, and being the kind of artist that I trying to emulate the artists that I love and the ones that really move me. And if I do all those things, that if I can make music that moves people, everything else will fall into place. Because every time I've if you set a goal, you can take shortcuts to get there, right? It's like, oh, I want to play main stage at EDC. It's like, okay, well, you need this many followers. Like, okay, I'm just gonna buy those followers. And like, that's not, that taking those shortcuts never works, right? And so to me, it's really about just how do I create the most authentic artist project I can make, and just do the best and make the most moving music I can.
Absolutely. And kind of going back to emulating artists, I know you drew a lot. With
that said, I do want to host SNL. So
yeah,
that can be the short answer.
So going back to emulating artists, I know that kind of when you got into it, you drew a lot of inspiration from indie artists like Mike Snow and Passion Pit. Who would you say currently, like in the sector that you're in, who are some like bigger electronic artists that you're currently drawing a lot of inspiration from?
I think the big guys right now are Porter, Forever. Virtual Self. It's not my, like, the music itself isn't my favorite, but I love the fact that he's like, I'm Porter Robinson and I can make infinite money being Porter Robinson, but I'm gonna make a weird hacky hardcore side project and it's gonna be dope and no one's gonna understand, like, it's gonna be the least accessible and least mainstream thing ever, but it's gonna be tight. And like, I love that attitude of like, this is what I'm passionate about. I don't care if it's gonna make me the most money, I'm just gonna do it. And I've been listening a lot of Odessa. I love the sort of, the feels is such an overused word, right? But the sort of emotional journey they take you on and how big and expansive their music feels without using any of the sort of like standard EDM tricks. It's just like, so yeah, those guys, and then Skrillex always. Everything Skrillex is so dope.
As far as a trick or a tip, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you could give a producer or someone that's up and coming that's kind of doubting themselves? Well, what piece of advice could you give them to kind of push past that?
Don't beat yourself up for being bad, because everyone's bad when they start. Everyone is bad for a long time. I was bad for forever. And it's, again, just to go back to what I said before, it's less about being good right away and more about being okay with being bad and like being able to get through that. And the other thing I would say is, and this is the hard part, is like find out what makes it you, right? Trying to copy other songs is a great way to learn your craft and learn how songs work and like learn the sort of technique of it, but you're never gonna get there just trying to make what's popular right now. If by the time it's popular, it's already too late for you to be making it, because things move in waves, right? Think about everyone who's making tropical house, right? It's like, you know, Kygo and then Thomas Jack a little bit, but then think about everyone who's like, oh, Trop House is next, and everyone who released Trop House music. And it just, you know, by the time it came out, no one really cared anymore. And so it's like, RIP. And so really just find what's unique about you, draw on your personal influences, like think about what moved you when you were a kid, because everyone has their own unique perspective on life, and you really have to tap into that and tap into what excites you personally, even if that's not what's trendy right now, that's not what's like what people are trying to sign. Just you gotta and that takes a long time, and you really it's a process of trial and error to really find your own sort of soul.
So you've got all these amazing artists featured on your tracks, but who's your dream artist to collab with?
John Mayer.
I knew you'd say that. Right. Did my research.
Oh, yes. Have you learned how to play that one song that you couldn't play, like a fairy tale?
No, my hands are they're literally not big enough. Well, as you know, John Mayer was the reason why I wanted to start making music. Those were the songs that I learned how to play guitar to, and it's it's one of those things where it's so interesting watching or like looking back on how my tastes have evolved and the kind of music I love now. But it's just, I think like going back, I don't really get starstruck anymore, but I think that would be a vibe for sure. And it'll be cool. It's like, oh, John Mayer's singing a dance song? That's dope.
Is a festival more enjoyable being in the crowd or on the stage?
I mean, playing festivals is awesome. Like, there's no way around that. Although I do really miss the experience of going to festivals. There's something magical about it, and I was just at Ultra, and after my set, I like walked around and went GA, and I saw like Millennium and a little bit of I saw Dead Mouse, and like watching it as a fan, it's so incredible because playing all these festivals, you get a little bit jaded. You're backstage and you're like in your trailer, and it can get a little like, oh, this is just sort of par for the course. But then going out there, you're like, oh no, this is like the best moment of a lot of people's year, right? This is a really special thing, and I think it's really important for artists not to lose that sort of like childlike wonder of like, oh my god, this is so dope, right? Because no matter how many shows you're playing there, it's someone's first festival, and you really have to, you got to bring it. It's like that's your responsibility to like really put it on. I don't care if it's your 10th festival of the week. Like you can't sort of forget what it's like being out there.
I know you're a big Dragon Ball Z fan.
I am.
So.
Why do you think I bleached my hair?
Right?
That's because Super Saiyan.
Yeah. If you had to choose one of your songs as an opening theme for Dragon Ball Z, what would it be?
Red Smoke, because then it's there's like the cool sort of
like that build up.
And then they're like charging up and it's like
dude, I love it.
I am just super stoked about finishing up the spring tour. Got a lot of exciting festivals this summer. I'm stoked to be playing Lollapalooza for the first time. EDC always is such a special moment, and of course playing in Vegas at the Wynn for the first time this year, Encore Beach Club all year, and I'm really excited to be in the studio and just work on the next album. It's I feel very grateful that I get to play all these amazing shows and go back and work on all this music that I'm excited about. So I'd like to thank the homies here. We have Gerald, Donovan, Damien, and Jerry, and little Kamiko here. And this is Elephante, and thanks for watching the Husky Chats.